Welcome to the Eric Brady podcast, Series 1, Adolf Hitler, His Bombers and Me. Episode 12, A London Vaccy in Wales. Eric, at 6.5 you were evacuated to Tregear to a foster family. How do you think it was for them having somebody new come into the household?
That must have been difficult for all the members of the family there, not only for the foster parents, but also for the foster brothers and sisters. This, of course, would vary according to how they fitted in and also on the expectations that each had of the other, because sometimes the evacuees came from a very different background to those foster parents and the foster brothers and sisters. The foster brothers and sisters too, they had to adjust to a stranger coming in with repercussions on the relationships all the way round. In my case, I just had one older foster brother who was considerably older than me, in that he was about 13 and I was, as you say, 6.5, 7. And so there wasn't the rapport that was so readily available when children were the similar age. And then there were the difficulties of a foster child and the evacuees having to live together, share things, and the foster parents then, if a dispute arose between the evacuee and the foster child, who would they give priority to, their own child or the evacuee? I think I shared with many evacuees the feeling that the foster child was their kid and I was only a London Vaccy. And therefore, not only did I feel that to some extent I was an intruder, but sometimes an evacuee could be made to feel that way. Other times, they took together very well. Sometimes an only child would welcome the entry of a brother or sister as someone to play with, as a companion, perhaps to go to school together and share their lives together.
You were staying in a family where they had an only child, Peter. Did you have your own room or were you having to share together?
No, I had my own room, little third bedroom, as it were. It had a single bed in, chair beside it, and a small chest of drawers at the bottom of the bed. And they're bare floorboards, but there was a mat beside the bed. The bed was more comfortable, in fact, than the camp bed that I'd had in Folkestone, and it was warmer as well. I was fortunate in the care that I got from that foster family. It was rather different with some of the other lads in Tregear, though. For some reason, 3 Welsh lads in particular took a down on myself and 2 other evacuees who also lived in the same street as I did. They were older and bigger than us, and unfortunately, where their school was and where they lived meant our paths crossed. And for some reason, as I say, they took a down on us, and our meetings became, shall we say, rather fraught. They didn't like the idea of London Vaccies coming down to their mining town with all the situations and animosities that have been built there over many years. And they seemed to feel that we were there unnecessarily as well. And to a large extent, that was our feeling. We had been away from home from September 1939, and it was now May, June, July 1940. And though there had been bombing raids, there hadn't really been a blitz, certainly not on London, that had been forecast. And so they felt, why were we there anyway? I remember one day The other two lads that lived in my street and I had different views on which way those three lads would go home, because we'd found a different way than going the long way through the town. We'd found a shortcut. And those three lads would sometimes go home from school through that shortcut and sometimes through the town. Well, in the town, there was a jeweller's shop, and they had a brooch there of airmen's wings, the type that they sewed on their uniform to show that they were aircrew, and particularly pilots. And I used to long to be able to buy that brooch to wear it myself. To me, it was the epitome of courage and bravehood and daring that our fighter people and our bomber crews were showing. And what I used to do, because I had no money, which was not uncommon, would be to go and gaze at this in the window on my way home from school for a time, and then carry on home, going along the high street and then up a main road. And that was the longer way round, actually. But it meant that there were more people around to see fair play if these three lads accosted us. I thought on this particular day that they would not go through the town, and so it'd be safe for me to go along that way. So I went along and had my evening gloat over this brooch, and then set off up the hill. I was part way up when these three lads suddenly appeared round a corner, just a few yards ahead of me, trapping me, as it were. So I started moving quickly downhill. They came after me, and then I did what military people call a strategic retreat. There was a gate in the fence. It was a high wooden fence and a high gate, so we couldn't see into the garden. And I tried it, and it was open. So I dodged in there, shut the gate and waited, expecting someone from the house to come out, want to know what I was doing there, and see me safely past these lads. There was silence for quite a time. The lads didn't come in after me, but I didn't know what they were doing. And then suddenly the gate swung open. It was not them, but it was the lady of the house. And she looked at me in her back garden totally blankly and said, "What are you doing here?" And I said that there's three lads out to bash me, and I came in here to get away from them. And so she said, "Why did they want to bash you?" And I said, "Well, they're Welsh kids and I'm a London Vaccy and they don't like me." And she said, "I don't like London Vaccies either," grabbed my shoulder, pushed me out into the street and locked the gate after me.
To buy your copy of Adolf Hitler, His Bombers and Me to read alongside the series, go to ericbradybooks.co.uk. The Eric Brady podcast can be found on YouTube, podcast services and at ericbrady.blogspot.com.